What is up, guys? It's Dan. Welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk. Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to. It really helps us grow. Roll that intro. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Guitar Talk. So today we are looking at the Fender Ultra Luxe 60s Vintage Stratocaster. Checking out the specs at the body, we've got an older body that is finished in what they call like an heirloom nitro finish. So it's nitro finish with some aging, a bit of checking and stuff to it. I don't know how well that'll come out on the camera. If I hold it over to the light and waggle it around a little bit, it might show up. You've got a 3-ply scratch plate on here, Fender Pure Vintage 61 single coils, volume, 2-tone, obviously your input jack, 5-way switch. You've got extra carbs for comfort on the back, strap locks installed, and then you've got an S1 switch here as well, which brings in the neck pickup on position 1 and 2. So you can get neck and bridge, and you can get all 3 pickups at the same time. Going over to the neck, we've got a quarter sawn maple neck with a modern D-shape profile. You've got a rosewood fretboard with 22 stainless steel frets. We've got clay dots on the front, so nice and vintage looking. And then on the side, we've got lumen inlays, which, if you don't know what they are kind of glow-in-the-dark-ish inlays, so that when you're playing on a dark stage, you can see where you are on the fretboard. Locking tuners on here, and then fretboard radius wise, we've got a 10 to 14 inch compound radius. If you don't know what a compound radius is, essentially it is rounder and more vintagey feeling, although not very vintagey because it's 10 inch at this end of the fretboard, and it flattens out as you go down here, so you can get a nice low action, big bends and everything without the risk of choking out anywhere. Sounds and tones that you can get out of this guitar, it's pretty much a vintage tone machine. It's got the Pure Vintage 61 pickups in there, and obviously that's where the idea of like the Ultra Luxe Vintage series comes from, is that you get all of the classic Strat tones. Now 60s is my preferred era of Strat pickup style. It's not quite as harsh as 50s, not quite as thin, I find. You get a nice usable bridge pickup that isn't too spiky, and then the addition of the S1 switch means that you can add some warmth to the bridge by bringing in the neck pickup. Obviously a big fat sound by having all 3 pickups at the same time. It just makes it a very, very versatile guitar. So you can get all those big, chimey, clean tones out of it, funky tones, bluesy tones, push it up into crunch territory, classic rock tones. This thing sounds great plugged into like a Plexi style amplifier. You can push it up into higher gain, but it is a little bit scratchy. So if you're looking at this as getting it like for a hard rocking machine, then you might be a little bit pushed, but obviously amp selection and all that stuff depends on what you plug it into. EQ pedals will help a lot there. But all in all, this is just a very, very versatile, toneful guitar. Setup on this one out of the box for the most part is all right. Like the nut's been cut really well, no kind of sharp fret ends or anything like that. Obviously stainless steel frets, nice and smooth, all that kind of stuff. The action is a little bit high, which kind of defeats the object of the whole compound radius fretboard. It's higher than average. It's about 3.5 mil at the 12th fret, which is getting up there. I think the neck's got a little bit of a bend in it and the truss rod needs adjusting. That could just be because we're changing seasons in the UK when I'm recording this. We're heading into like autumn, wintry kind of time. So that might be why the setup is out. But normally I would expect if it gets colder for the neck to go back, not forward. So I suspect it's just not been set up very well in the factory, which is a shame because this is a very expensive guitar. So the intonation isn't quite in, all that kind of stuff. I know when we get our Tech G to go over this and do a setup on it, it's going to be an amazing feeling guitar. But in general, setup on this one out of the box, not great. Quality on this one, it all looks like it's been put together very, very well. It all feels nice and sturdy. There's no kind of loose joints or anything like that. The finish has been applied really well and the aging has been done very, very well as well. There's some nice checking to it, as I said earlier. There's nothing to complain about here. All of the materials that they've used look like they're really good quality. The feel of the neck is really nice. That's all been done very well. The curves that they've put on the body, all the contours have been done with a lot of thought and skill to them. The locking, like there's nothing to complain about here build quality wise. All in all, this is just a very, very well put together guitar. Would I be happy to play one of these live? And as usual by that, I mean, if I was going on tour for a year or doing a big run of shows and someone gave me one of these and said, hey, you are only allowed to play the Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage 60s Strat, and that's all you're allowed to play. Would I be happy to play one of these live? Absolutely. This feels like a fantastic guitar. I love the fact, like the feel, especially when you get higher up the neck. So I've played a lot of these like modern refinement guitars before where they're like, you get all the goodness of all the classic guitars, but with all the goodness of the modern stuff. And especially where they do that contoured heel and all that kind of stuff. And like when I play a Gibson and it's got that contoured heel, it never feels quite right. It feels like, okay, yeah, I see what you're going for, but it still doesn't feel quite like you've nailed it, for me anyway. And when I've played Strats before where they've got the little rounded heel, again, it's like, okay, yeah, I can see what you've done there, a little bit of a gimmick, but nah. But this is the first time I've actually picked up any brand of guitar really, where they've said about doing like, oh, we've put like an ultra access heel thing in there and everything, where it feels like some thought and attention has gone into it, that I've picked it up and just been like, yeah, that actually really works. That feels fantastic. There's still some meat there, but at the same time, like it just fits perfectly. So in terms of like playability and feel and comfort and all that kind of stuff, I really like this. Like before, when I've felt companies do this, it almost feels a little bit characterless and not thought out, and it kind of takes away the essence of what I feel like the guitar should feel like, whereas this really, really works. So in terms of feel and playability and stuff, I would be really, really happy to play this on stage. I think it's a great feeling guitar. Now, in terms of tones, I've said in videos before, I predominantly play like modern country, southern rocky kind of poppy stuff, and this is going to cover like 85% of what I do, and it would do it absolutely fine. Now the bridge pickup's still a little bit on the bright side for me for something like the rockier sections of songs. I'm sure in a band mix it would sound absolutely fine, but just it hasn't got quite enough meat down here for me. Obviously the S1 switching helps. You can bring in the neck pickup and stuff. Like, that's really cool. If I had one of these, I might put like a little mini humbucker in there or something, or have a look. I don't think they do one, but an HSS one would be really cool. And I would set this up flat against the body so that if I've got to go into drop D or anything like that, then this isn't going to waggle all over the place and knock the tuning out. But other than that, in terms of feel and like the main components and like just general what the guitar is, I would be absolutely thrilled if someone gave me one of these and said, this is your touring guitar for the year. Is there anything that I don't like or that I would change about the guitar? Now, I mentioned just now, like obviously setup is a personal thing. People like guitars set up in different ways. Now, I would deck this to the body. I don't do trem up stuff, so it's great that they send it out the factory, allegedly set up for trem up stuff if you want to do up bends on the trem. I would deck this to the body because I've got to go into like drop D for some songs and stuff like that. And if I don't want to bring two guitars, or I've got two guitars but I just can't be bothered to change because it's going to leave too long a gap between songs, it's nice to just go and be there and not worry about the fact that all the other strings have now gone out of tune. So in terms of like if I would change anything, just little tweaks to the setup. And as I said, I would probably put like a little hot railsy kind of thing in the bridge just to have a bit of a fatter bridge sound, just to turn this into the ultimate workhorse guitar. But other than that, neck feels great. It's got like the loom inlays and stuff which really help on stage and all that kind of stuff. So is there anything else I would change? No, just the bridge pickup, something a little bit hotter, a bit fuller sounding, and just a few little setup tweaks for me, and that's it. Is the guitar worth the money? Now, as I said, in the UK, these are somewhere around the £3,000 mark. Now, when I first played this guitar, I didn't realize it was that expensive. I hadn't really paid that much attention when these came out. But when we got one in, I played it, I thought, oh, this is really, really good. And I didn't have a look until I like went to see this review and I looked at how much it cost. I didn't realize it was that expensive. Is it worth the money? Now, £3,000, I get it's going to be out of a lot of people's budget. A lot of people will not be able to afford this guitar. But when you look at what this is and what I think it's competing with, so if you wanted a great quality S-style guitar before that had like all of these modern refinements and everything, you're looking at like modern boutique builders who, you know, they call them boutique-y kind of stuff, but like Tom Anderson, Eggle, Sir, all that kind of stuff that do Strat style guitars with like flatter necks and all that kind of stuff. This is what I think that guitar is aiming at. People who want those classic Strat tones, but they want all of the modern refinements and stuff that goes with it. And those guitars are at the same price point as this. Some of them a little bit more, some of them a little bit less, but I think this is what this guitar is competing with, is people who want that classic Strat style tone, but want all of the modern stuff that goes with it. And for the first time, I think Fender have really nailed it, that if you want those classic Strat tones, like classic Strat DNA, but you want all the modern stuff that goes with it, and you want Fender on the headstock, then this is actually a contender at that price point to look at. So if you're comparing this to like Sirs and Andersons and Tyler guitars and all that kind of stuff that's all up around that price point, does this hold its like value in terms of that money when you compare this to those guitars? Absolutely, yes, it does. But again, I realize that at £3,000, that opens up a whole ball game of so many guitars that you can buy, and this will put it out of a lot of people's reach because not many people these days can afford to spend £3,000 on a guitar. But if you can afford to spend that and you're looking at like those kind of guitars like Sirs and all that kind of stuff, definitely check these out and see what you think. So there we go, that is the Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage 60s Strat. These names are not catchy at all. I hope that when Fender do their next like product cycle in like 2 to 3 years and they come out with like the next range of guitars, that they kind of go, right, we've milked this current name for what we can't add any more little things on the end of this. We've just got to come up with a new name. So we'll see. The new Strat, fantastic, super, ultra, mega. Maybe that'll be the next range. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you've tried these. Let me know if you've got like a Sir, that kind of guitar, and you've tried one of these and how you think this stacks up against it. I'm really interested to know because I haven't got like a Sir or anything around at the moment that I can kind of compare this to. But I think that's what it's aiming at. So let me know in the comments. Love to know what you think. Other than that, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.